Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Backlog Banter. I'm Tucker, joined by my unsavory co-host, Abram Buhner, and today we're going to be talking about the games that we have been playing this past week and reading out a little bit of what you, our community, has been playing this past week in our section about the community at the end of the show. Believe it or not,
Tucker, but Abram, how does somebody submit to that show?
If you were to be a part of our community and get your comment about the games you've been playing on this show, you can join our Discord. The link is in the description. And believe it or not, mighty near that link to the Discord is a subscription button. There's a like button. You can diddle around with all those things and have a grand old time joining us on this BLB journey. But Abram, with that glorious look on your face, I would love nothing more than for you to start with one of the games you've been playing this week.
Tucker, I think we should put at the very top a huge disclaimer that we both played a ton of Metroid Dread, but will not be talking about it today because the review to that is already live. You should go check that out. That video might end up being longer than this one.
It's a long video.
It was a meaty review. It's very much worth checking out. But Tucker,
as is all of our content.
The first game I want to talk to you about today is a game I mentioned only in circumspect last week, and that is Kingdom Hearts.
Oh, that's right. You did play a little more.
Yes. So Kingdom Hearts, I am playing because Sora is coming to Smash, and Smash Brothers has an incredible influence on the games I play, the games you play, and regrettably, Tucker, with Kingdom Hearts characters coming to Smash Brothers, gotta check it out. So I have now finished Wonderland, which is the first land. So I've done Destiny Islands.
Yes. I'm not a Disney guy. Which one is the Wonderland? Is that from
Alice in Wonderland?
Oh, hey, that's in the title of that one. I didn't even think of that.
Yes. So that is the first.
Is that a movie?
Alice in Wonderland, yeah, from the 60s. Alice in Wonderland is the most fucking bizarre Disney movie.
I think I read like a book adaptation of that when I was a kid. I thought it was just a book.
You're not a Disney man, but I genuinely do think that if you're going to like any of their animated films, it would be Alice in Wonderland.
And neither of us are book people either.
No, but it's a psychotic movie. I love it. It's one of my favorite Disney films.
Yeah.
And so basically now I've done Destiny Islands, Traverse Town, and Wonderland.
Sure.
I still really wish I could like Kingdom Hearts more than I do.
Yeah.
The problem for me, Tucker, comes down to the gameplay.
Sure.
Because I think first of all, the game is gorgeous in these HD remix collections.
Playing on PS4 or PS5, but
I'm playing on PS5, but it's the PS4 version of the PS3 remake of the PS2 game.
Is that true?
Yeah. Quite a lineage there. But yeah, there's a lot to really love about Kingdom Hearts. And I think a lot of it comes down from the aesthetic and the story and the conceit of everything. And that's all wonderful. I genuinely really love all that stuff. But the problem is it just doesn't play that well. Mm-hmm. The combat is very simple, and you start to get some more depth as you get spells and everything, right?
Sure.
And it just becomes very button mashy. There's some platforming here because for those who aren't familiar, this game's actually inspired by Mario 64. It's one of the direct influences on Kingdom Hearts. And I'm not fucking with you. That's a true fact.
I've heard that multiple. Since Sora was announced, I've been hearing that everywhere.
Yeah.
And that's not something I'd heard before this.
And
knowing very little about Kingdom Hearts, I would not have been able to tell.
No. There's actually a surprising amount of platforming in the game.
Sure.
But ultimately, it just feels kind of floaty and kind of mushy. I don't really like the way the game feels. I don't like the way the combat feels. And so there's this tension for me between all the stuff that I really love about Kingdom Hearts so far and the stuff that I don't really, which ends up unfortunately being a lot of the gameplay, because it's so fun going to Wonderland, seeing these characters I love, seeing them recontextualized and affected by the Heartless and the overarching plot. But when it just feels kind of stiff to play, that's a tougher sell for me. However, I am very early on. The actual areas are pretty digestible, so I think that's going to be a sort of game where I chip away on. And if I do 2 or 3 more worlds and I end up not liking it, if the combat doesn't unfold in a way that I like, if the platform doesn't evolve in a way that I like, then I'll drop it. But I don't feel comfortable dropping it yet because I see a lot that I like about the game.
Yeah. Vamp.
Okay. Oh, I don't know where he's going. So let's talk about, I don't know, we can talk about more about Kingdom Hearts. I didn't have to fight him very long. I didn't actually even say anything.
Look at that. Kingdom Hearts on PS2. Now, I regret to inform you that this is unfortunately the greatest hits version. And I've been looking at this. A lot of my PS2 games are the greatest hits version. And you have no idea how much that bothers me now. But so I'll probably have to go through this in the trash can. But I played approximately 25 minutes of that game.
Well,
I really would like to give it a try and get more into it. one thing that is interesting about what you said, and I don't know, I don't want to speak for you, but I know personally, chipping away at a game doesn't really work for me. Like, I'm not someone who can play a bit of a game every week and finish it eventually. If a game takes me more than a month to beat, unless it's a long game that I'm invested in and playing consistently, there's no chance in hell I'm gonna beat it.
I have this weird ability, and I don't have it for other mediums really, but I have an ability to play a game and then drop it and pick it back up and remember exactly how it plays and exactly where I was.
That's a skill.
Yeah, as we're going to talk about for another game that I'm going to mention soon. But yeah, so I do think I'm going to chip away at it. Imminently, I want to beat a couple more worlds, perhaps for next episode.
Sure, no, that makes sense.
And then I can give the verdict as to whether or not I'm going to continue with Kingdom Hearts or not. But Tucker, that's my first game.
It certainly is. And I gotta be honest, Kingdom Hearts, a game people like, presumably, who knows, but I'm coming with a hard-hitting classic, a Miyamoto designed game. Of course, we're talking none other than Mole Mania, baby. Let's fucking go. I played Mole Mania. I downloaded ROM on my Mac laptop, and I was playing it at work, and I think this game is awesome. I think it's surprisingly great. I mean, it's simple, but it's complex in its simplicity and the ways that best puzzle games are. It gets pretty tough and pretty mind-bending, but I think that's because the mechanics that are there are so deceptively simple that when they put them into all sorts of wacky combinations, it's hard for your brain to keep up occasionally. And I found myself falling into that sometimes, just looking up a guide, looking up what was a step I was missing, and then just trying my best to catch back up. But this game is, I mean, how much of it do you want me to explain here for the audience?
Whatever you want to do, because I'm familiar with Mole Mania.
So, of course, you would be. But Mole Mania is a Game Boy game. I think a relatively late Game Boy game. It came out after Super Mario World, so it was sort of in this really weird position. No, wait. No, that would make it early. Doesn't matter. It didn't do very well, is basically what I'm trying to say, because it was placed around.
It was post N64 is what you're trying to get at, if I remember.
Oh, is that true? Oh, yes, post Mario 64. That's exactly what I was thinking of.
Yes, 1996, July 21st, 1996.
Yes, so it is a late Game Boy game.
Yeah.
Yeah, and which is strange because it feels I would have
assumed pre-Pokemon.
Which is a very late Game Boy game.
Late game.
But it is the Game Boy game.
Let's talk about Mole Mania.
Mole Mania, all right, a simple puzzle game. Deceptively simple puzzle game designed by Miyamoto on the Game Boy, where you are a little guy, a mole, believe it or not, named Muddy, pushing balls into holes, mostly, and throwing balls and digging under the ground as moles are wont to do.
They are.
But the challenge of this game and sort of its unique twist, because you got a lot of games, especially in that era, where you're pushing blocks and balls around to try to get to the end of a screen. But this gives it an extra dimension, literally, by introducing two layers, essentially 3 dimensions. You can go above ground or dig below ground, where you can pop up underneath walls or activate something underground that changes something above ground, avoid enemies. And it really turns it into this sort of mind-bending thing where you have to keep track of 2 different planes of reality as you're attempting to get your little guy Muddy through small areas to the end of the level. There are a couple other things that I think make it really interesting and pretty advanced for its time, because this isn't just you go from one room to the other and that's it. They're placed in the context of what they call levels, which is a set of 15 to 20 smaller rooms, single room challenges. But those rooms can be interconnected and you can go back to them. So sometimes you'll actually open a path that'll allow you to go back to an earlier level and approach it from a different angle and get an item that you couldn't get before. Or go back and be able to get a heart, because sometimes you can have a heart that's laying around. If you don't need it, health is pretty scarce in this game. You can leave it and then come back later and pick it up. So there's a really interesting interconnectedness to this that makes it really satisfying to explore, and like almost in a Dark Souls type way, loop back on a level and be like, oh, this is where I were. This is how it connects back. And I think that's really, really cool.
Yeah, it's one that I really want to play. I find this game very bizarre and endearing. And as you're saying, mechanically interesting. So I do plan. My main holdout was that I was under the impression that Game Boy was coming to Nintendo Switch Online.
Yes.
Which has turned into a false impression.
Yes.
So I suppose.
Remember when we talked about that rumor over a year ago or almost a year ago. Good God.
I'll have to buy it on this bad boy.
Yeah.
So I anticipate playing it soon. Not super soon because we've got a lot of cool things on the horizon right now.
Yes.
But
like Numa.
It's on my list for sure.
But I'm surprised by it. I think I've sort of gotten the gist of it though. It's not a game that I anticipate myself completing at all. Not because of any fault of the game, though it is pretty difficult and it is in an old game way challenging in that health is limited. And if you lose all your hearts, actually I haven't lost all my hearts, so I don't really know what happens. But I presume that you lose progress in the level or something like that.
From what I understand, it's actually pretty fair with the checkpoints.
No, you get a checkpoint at the beginning of each world, each room.
Yeah.
And if you maybe I'm wrong about that. But regardless, it gets pretty tough. And I don't know if I really want to be bashing my head against the wall against a fucking Mania puzzle. I mean, also it's pretty long. I mean, there's 8 levels, but within each one is like 20 challenges. So there's a lot of content to this game. But all of that is good. I mean, for a Game Boy game, Game Boy games are pretty simple. Most of them don't hold up very well. This game does hold up very well. It's very unique mechanically. And I'm surprised it never got any sort of continuation. I mean, maybe there was something Japanese exclusive for, fucking Disk System or Satellaview or whatever the fuck. But as far as I know, this is just a one-off Nintendo franchise, which is fascinating because it does have the possibility to be a simple eShop title. Certainly, it's a wide tier franchise for Nintendo, but I'm surprised it never came back at all.
Yeah, no. As far as I know, there is no other Mania content. I think it was just a fact that the game didn't sell well. It didn't sell well at all. Yeah. But I agree with you completely. It's a conversation, and this might actually be a great other discussion to record of all of the peculiar Nintendo franchises that can and should come back as Switch eShop games.
Sure.
Because this is an idea we beat around the bush of a lot. Yeah. So let's put a little pin in that one.
Okay.
Tucker, I'm going to hit you my next game.
All right. Question. How many games do you have? Because I have 5.
I have 3 more to talk about.
I
actually have a 4th, but I know that one of the submissions from the community is that game, so I'm going to save my thoughts on it. Let's talk about Pilotwings.
Okay. All right. That came out of nowhere. Now, see, you're always telling me to let you know what I'm talking about on BLB. You get up, you all fucking antsy when I'm like, I'm playing a game you don't know. But I'm so glad I didn't know you were playing Pilotwings because when you take a deep breath and blurt out, I've been playing Pilotwings in the year of our Lord 2021. I get a moment of elation that is unmatched. Sure. I'm very glad you didn't tell me you were playing this because I'm super excited to talk about fucking Pilotwings.
Yeah, so the reason I was playing Pilotwings is because over at RetroWare, I'm working on a story about Mode 7 right now. Mm-hmm. And so I was just dicking around in some. I'm going to talk about another Mode 7 game in a little bit, but Pilotwings is a really interesting game because it's quite ambitious. Effectively, Pilotwings, which I think is probably better known for its stage in Smash Brothers and its item than as its own game at this point. Yeah. But it's this laid back game about various aerial vehicles, planes, parachutes, rocket jetpacks, all kinds of weird and fun standard stuff, weird stuff. It all comes together. Yeah. And the point is you are basically getting different certificates of proficiency with different vehicles. And so to do that, you have to fulfill various challenges. So maybe it's fly the plane through the rings and then land it. Mm-hmm. Or it's actually a lot of flying through rings and then landing. And so...
As most flight sim games are, because the gameplay comes in moving your plane in a 3D space.
Yes, and this is where it gets really interesting because mechanically the game is very ambitious. When they say you got to land the plane, they mean you have to be at the right axis with your wings. You can't be coming in from too high of an altitude. You can't be coming in from too low of an altitude. You have to maintain speed. You have to slowly hit the runway and coast to a stop. Like what they're doing with the SNES controllers and the SNES hardware is very interesting.
The base and SNES hardware, because this was a launch game. This was for the Super Nintendo. It was one of very few launch games.
we're not even talking Super FX here, right? We're talking this full 3D physics-based flight game built in Mode 7 for the launch of SNES.
Yeah.
Very ambitious, very interesting, very much not fun to play.
That's what I've heard.
Yeah.
I would love to do, presumably what you did is dick around on it for a few minutes on SNES Online. And probably never think about it again. But I'm known for trying out something or other, like Mania. But yeah, I'm fascinated by this game from a lot of perspectives, but not from a gameplay perspective.
Yeah, the problem with it is that it's a Mode 7 game.
Yeah.
And Mode 7 games often did not work within their own limitations, as we learned playing Super Mario Kart, which I also tried to play last night, and I was genuinely nauseated by it again.
Thank you for validating me on that, because I've been thinking back at that for a couple of reasons that we'll actually get to today. But that game made me like so sick that I was surprised. I was like, how the fuck do people play this? And I think that's sort of my one touchstone for Mode 7 is that simulated 3D was probably impressive, but I can only say probably, because it certainly is not impressive from today's perspective.
And so it's actually a different problem with Pilotwings. Pilotwings does not throw so much shit at the screen, so it is far easier to look at. The game is easy on the eyes. But the problem is that there is no depth perception in Mode 7.
Sure.
Mode 7 can show the veneer.
Sounds like a problem for a plane landing game.
Yes. Mode 7 can show the veneer of depth in 3D space, but it cannot, in the way that Pilotwings tries to, illustrate and relate spatial dynamics.
Yeah, and require it.
Yes. And so because of that, you'll be parachuting and you'll be trying to fall through sequential rings.
Yeah.
But you'll look lined up, and then you get closer to the ring, and the ring is over here, and you're over here. And you combine that with sluggish, albeit intentionally sluggish, but sluggish controls.
Yeah.
And it just becomes more an exercise of trying to fight your own depth perception.
Okay.
Than really gaining like a mastery over the mechanics.
Yeah.
And because of that, I got what I needed to for the context of the article I'm writing, but I didn't have any interest in pursuing it beyond that. Well,
the interesting thing about that, and one of the few things that I do know about Pilotwings on Super Nintendo, is that I think it's like 7 stages.
There are 8 main stages, 2 unlockable stages.
I was close.
You can beat the game in about an hour. I played about half an hour, and then just found myself completely understanding what it is, because then it starts to recycle the same vehicles, just different challenges.
Sure.
Again, it's about getting mastery, it's about getting certificates and everything, so I understand what they're going for. But it's like, I saw what you're doing, I see what you have to offer. That's about all I need, though.
Yeah. It's a really interesting franchise. I mean, it's 3 games. I know there's a 64 and a Resort. Why is Pilotwings 64 now part of the N64 lineup?
I really don't know anything about Pilotwings 64. I almost bought a copy of Resort off of eBay.
I have one. Send you a copy of Resort.
Let's just do a little Yankee swap. That sounds way better, because it's like I don't need to spend money on Pilotwings Resort.
No, yeah.
But
I was actually one of the first 3DS games I ever got.
Well, it was a launch game.
Well, yeah, I know, but I didn't get my 3DS at launch.
Sure.
I just was like, oh, I've heard of Pilot. That's a stage in Smash.
It's funny you say that, because what's interesting to me about Pilotwings Resort and why I really want to play it is because not only is the 3D effect and the advancement of technology going to make the depth perception and everything easier, it's set in Woohoo Island. I love Woohoo Island, and I really think that'd be a fun way to explore it, kind of in an expansion of what Wii Sports Resort did, which is just a lovely game that people don't talk about enough. But Tucker, those are my thoughts on Pilotwings. I've got nothing more to say. Don't ask me.
Okay, all right. Don't be surprised if I come back with Pilotwings impressions next week, because
perfect.
You've turned me on to something that I will probably not enjoy, but at least be intrigued by.
I know. I turned you on.
Well, actually, let's transition to something that is not what I next played chronologically, but who the fuck cares? If I had to mention it, you wouldn't know. But that is tangentially connected in multiple ways to what we were just talking about. We were talking about 3D effects. We were talking about mechanics that we didn't really connect with. We were talking about Woohoo Island. And of course, I'm going to be transitioning to Mario Kart 7 on the 3DS, which I have completed. I saw the credits roll, which just meant that I played once through each of the cups, which each of the 8 cups. I have an already interesting relationship with this game because I played it once or twice back in the day with a friend on DS Download Play. I much more recently, bought it on eBay as one of the first eBay games. I probably mentioned this on the show a while ago, but it was one of the first games I realized I could purchase games on eBay. So I put in a bid for Mario Kart 7, and then I'm like, wait, I don't want Mario Kart 7. But at that point, it's too late. You can't retract your fucking bid. So I ended up with a copy of Mario Kart 7, and that was kind of the meme. Is I have a copy of Mario Kart 7, and I'm never going to try it. I don't care.
Yeah.
But I looked it up. I'm like, I know how to play Mario Kart. I should just try this, see how it's different, and move on and probably never think about it again, which is exactly what's going to happen. I'm going to talk about it here and we'll go as in depth as we need to, because I still think it's an interesting game to discuss, but it's not a memorable game.
So I played a lot of Mario Kart 7 because I got my 3DS for Christmas in 2011.
Okay. Very early on.
Yeah, and between my grandparents actually bought me the system, and then my parents bought me some of the games for it.
My grandma gets me fucking pajama pants.
My grandma got me a 3DS, and so I had, by the time that my birthday and Christmas were done, I had Star Fox 64 3D, Ocarina of Time 3D, 3D Land, and Mario Kart 7,
which is basically the entire first 2 years of the library for the 3DS.
It was basically everything of consequence from 2011.
Yeah.
And so I played a lot of Mario Kart 7 because I loved Mario Kart Wii. My entire family loved Mario Kart Wii. And so the thing about Mario Kart 7 is that I think that 7 was necessary for the series.
Okay. Yeah.
But it is not necessary by its own merit.
No,
you can
go to have an entry on a popular system. It exists and fills that function.
Yes.
It sounds like there'd be more to that sentence, but that's really the end of it.
Well, because the thing about it is it actually introduces gliding and it introduces underwater. Yes. And underwater is a lot less useful on a mechanical level, but what it really does is it blows up track design, makes track design crazy.
100%, yeah.
But the thing is, Mario Kart 8's anti-grav mechanic was so understated that basically what Mario Kart 8 became was just the ideas from 7 in a much stronger game.
Yes.
And so that's the problem with 7. It is fun to go back to, but it is completely toothless. It has basically no interesting side modes.
Yeah. Oh, yes.
And because of that, it is the Mario Kart on 3DS, but it has Wiggler and Honeybee, Queen Bee. So
one of my favorite aspects of the Mario Kart series, not that I'm a Mario Kart fan as we'll get to, but is that when each game they just choose a couple dumb fuck characters to be like, let's try them this time. And I love a Smash Ultimate of Mario Kart characters where they just strip back some of the fucking unnecessary ones. We don't need Baby Daisy. We don't need Peach. I like Pinkle Peach. We don't need Metal Mario, but bring back Wiggler, bring back Rob, bring back fucking the drum guy from the arcade one. Just go all out on the fucking weird ones. But that's never gonna happen. And Mario Kart 7. All right, let's talk. Yes. So I started this yesterday. And I already finished it.
Right.
I was playing it in the car as my brother was doing DoorDash. I was just riding along with him chatting, and I was playing Mario Kart 7 on the side. Not a great game to be playing for motion sickness wise while you're sitting in a car, but I'm going to discount that because that was my own stupidity of fucking bringing Mario Kart in the car. It was a dumb idea. But this game, more than almost any other Nintendo game I can think of, is just the definition of let's make an entry for this series for this console, because the lack of personality that this game has is apparent from square 0.05. You press start on this game and it's just a white screen with the Mario Kart 7 logo on it. And then you go to the menu and it's 3 basically just metal things. It's single player, local multiplayer, online multiplayer, and a PNG of Mario above. And you're like, oof. This game has nothing to lean on in terms of it's actually kind of impressive.
And what's weird about it is this is the entry that probably moved the series forward the furthest, because we also didn't talk about card customization and what that brings to unlockables.
Yes.
So when you talk about card customization, you talk about gliding, you talk about underwater. Mm-hmm. That's a lot. added
for a Mario Kart game.
Yes, but it's just all better than 8.
100%. Like everything that I felt playing this game, I was just like, well, I guess I was playing Mario Kart 8 Deluxe. And that's a testament to the quality of Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, making its previous entry obsolete. But I found myself just frustrated and bored with this game more than anything. Not only because it's lacking personality, though that is probably one of the biggest complaints I have with it, but as someone who's not a fan of Mario Kart outside of the context of it being an occasionally fun party game, which I'll get to, I really felt like this game was simpler than some of the other ones I've played. And it's been a while since I've gone back to Wii or DS, but I got first on every cup on my first try. And I was on 100cc. I wasn't on 150. I just kind of wanted to go in the middle. But maybe I'm just actually good at Mario Kart, even though I don't want to admit it. But I found this just being really simple, and because of that, being pretty bland and boring. Because I didn't really see any of the items. I didn't like the tracks are like 80% of them are also in 8. So I really just was like going through the motions on this game. Like, well, wow, I'm really not doing anything here.
Yeah, ultimately, I don't really have a whole hell of a lot more to add. It's the 3D land of Mario Kart games.
Yeah, it is. And it also, it fits into that era where Nintendo was like, got to keep making Mario games. Let's do a 3D Mario game. Let's do fucking 25 2D Mario games and a Mario Kart, none of which have great personality. None of what they all fit into that. Just like, this is the Mario game section.
Yeah.
But the last thing I do want to say is that I did begrudgingly, but did have fun playing this game multiplayer, because what I did was one of the greatest inventions of mankind ever, DS download play with my brother. Can you imagine if there was like Switch download play for Smash and Mario Kart and stuff? DS download play is such a great idea.
Yeah.
You just have a copy of a game, and then suddenly you can just play for free without a Wi-Fi connection, the game with everyone around you. What the fuck?
Yeah.
What? Huh? That's awesome. And it's super quick, and it's free, and it's easy. Holy shit.
I love DS download play.
But I had a great time
playing it. Picked chat?
Yes, 100%. 100%.
The combo.
But I had a good time playing it with him. I think probably because he offered somewhat of a challenge for me, and we were kind of swapping back and forth in terms of getting first and second and things of that nature. But I don't have a lot to say. I really don't like this game very much. I think the only reason I can say that I do enjoy Mario Kart 8 Deluxe is because it does have that personality, it does have that quality, it does have those extra things, and of course there's plenty of content in Deluxe, having included everything from 8 and the DLC and all that. But I don't like Mario Kart. I don't think it's that fun. I think it's simplistic, and once you've gone through a track once, you're going to go around it twice more, and you see the same shit every time, and probably take the same route. And maybe you'll get a different item, someone will run into you, but I mean, it's just really fucking boring. And I think this is just the biggest example of that, because it lacks the things that I do, even though I'm not a fan of the gameplay, like with 8 Deluxe.
I'd be curious if you'd like DS's mission mode.
Sure. Yeah, maybe.
It might be interesting. I'm also going to force you to play Mario Kart 64 online with me.
No, I do want to try that one. Yeah.
I've actually I think that is the only one I have not played. So.
Yeah, that's it for Mario Kart 7. Talk about it way more longer than I thought I would. But
let's talk about one other racing game. Talk about F-Zero.
Oh yeah, okay. Oh, you're going on a fucking Mode 7 spree here.
Yeah, this is the end of it.
Yeah.
F-Zero is still a wonderful game. I really think F-Zero SNES is in my top 5 SNES games easily.
Sure.
And it still looks and sounds and feels so good today. And I think the reason that it does is because it doesn't overextend itself. It's like, sure. I am a Mode 7 racer, so I'm going to strip that back to being about speed, and then speed is going to inform the gameplay. So we're going to have these nice wide tracks that are going to be about checking your opponent and making sure no one gets past you and figuring out when to use your boost and cornering well. But it's not going to be about fucking pipes and items everywhere that are cluttering the screen, making it difficult to look at. Yeah. It's about technical speed, technical racing ability. So ultimately that's going to narrow its appeal. But if it's something that speaks to you, you're really going to love F-Zero.
Sure. Yeah.
And it helps a lot. The game sounds awesome. It has a wonderful soundtrack. I mean, a lot of the motifs have been, reorchestrated and redone for every game since, but they started here. They sound great. The pixel art's really beautiful. And because I do like the feel of F-Zero, this game is really fun for me to go back to. That said, I think that what X and GX bring to the series just make them far more interesting. But I only have access to the original right now because my copy of GX is all the way back in Maine, and so is my copy of X. But returning to F-Zero, finally beating it all the way through, finishing all the cups. Was a really great time, and it's a fucking hard game. It is hard. It is hard. It is.
Is that something? Exactly. I know it's obviously a very quick game, and I'm not sure how the game is in terms of reset time. Quick. If you lose, I know that's what I'm saying. But did you find yourself using this SNES rewind feature?
Yeah, I did, because I had played it before, and ultimately this time I just wanted to see the rest of the trip. I wanted to just see it through.
That's kind of what I thought. But of course, I have no problem with that. Someone in the fucking chat's going to be like, you didn't really play F-Zero. But I don't give a shit. I don't, guy,
I'm one of
hypothetical individual, I don't give a fuck about you.
I'm one of 7 people who owns F-Zero GX, and I play a lot of GX and a lot of X. I think I'm allowed a little bit of rewind, so I don't have to grind through F-Zero.
No, yeah, original. I'm interested by F-Zero.
Yeah.
More from the fact that it's a Nintendo franchise that I have very little experience with. Of course, also X coming to N64 online very soon.
Is fantastic.
Which I'm excited for. But I'll go on a catch up Mode 7 spree next week. But yeah, I don't have a lot to say. I'm interested in it from an external perspective, but there isn't much about the game itself in terms of gameplay that intrigues me, because as you said, it's got a pretty narrow appeal because it's very focused, and I do respect that, but I just don't know if it's something that I would find enjoyable outside of possibly multiplayer. I think that's maybe where I would find the most entertainment value. Of course, I'd have to get used to the mechanics to be able to enjoy playing multiplayer and feeling competitive, but I feel like I couldn't enjoy it through that perspective.
Yeah, I think that X will be a lot of fun for us to play together, because F-Zero, the original, is very narrow in terms of, okay, it's about racing, it's about skill, it's about cornering, it's about the feeling of speed, the feeling of momentum that the game gives you, which is all fantastic. But when you get into X and you get into GX, there's all kinds of interesting side modes and various death matches and things.
That are all available multiplayer?
Yeah.
Okay.
And so assuming that the whole game is going to have online based on the ways that they retrofit them for NSO. So I think we're going to have a great time. A little disappointed that that's not one of the launch games for the service.
Yeah.
But when that comes, that's going to be a fucking hoot and a half. So
yeah.
F-Zero, I highly recommend it. Highly, highly, highly. If you have a Switch, you probably have an SNES online access. So just play it. It won't take you too long, even if you end up just playing the first cup and that's where you tap out. I think there's a great experience to be had.
Sure. Let's go to something. There's going to be a couple of stories related to this one. All right. I talked about how Super Mario Kart made me very nauseous the time that we played it. You and I tried it on Switch Online. I think we were playing Mario Kart 8, and then we were like, why don't we try Super Mario Kart for shits and giggles? And it was not a good time for either of us. But outside of that game, I don't get motion sick very often. I mean, playing 7 in the car was a bad idea, but there's only one game that has ever made me physically violently ill, like retching in the toilet on my hands and knees with like sour shit coming out of my mouth. And I'm being graphic, but it was a hard experience for me, so I want you to feel it too. And that game is Maquette, which is a first-person puzzle game, PS5 puzzle game that was a part of a PS Plus
giveaway launch.
Earlier in the year. And so I went through and played this because it's not a very long game, and I was just kind of jonesing for something quick. And I really wish this game didn't give me physical sickness, because I do think there's an interesting game here for a lot of different reasons, but it did make me sick. And that's what informs the majority of my experience with the game, which is unfortunate. Though I don't think it's certainly not a must play. It has an interesting concept that I think you try the first like level and a half. It's broken into like 8 chapters or something. If you try the first like couple chapters, you'll understand it, and that'll be fine. But the idea is that the world is recursive, which means that there's a large world that you're walking around in, and inside of that large world is a very small copy, very small replica of the large world sitting in the center. And if you go up to the tiny little diorama world and you pick up a bridge or a block or something and you drop it somewhere else, the big ass version of that drops elsewhere and goes boom and fucking falls on the ground and the world shakes because it's big and heavy. And from that angle, that's such a clever idea. And the puzzles that starts off with are just so smart. I mean, you were like, how do I have a key. I need to get across this gap to unlock a door on the other side. How do I get across the gap? Oh, use the key as a bridge. Place the small key across a small gap and use a giant key to what across a giant gap. Cool. Oh, that's so fucking clever. And it really makes you think. And there's even a third recursive world on the outside, so you're really tiny and you get to go through like cracks in the walls and stuff because you're fucking small. And all of that is awesome. And it's also centered around solid graphics with a very nice color palette, very satisfying color palette, some fun physics. It's great, got great audio design. Sure. It's got a story in the background voiced by Bryce Dallas Howard and her wife, her husband. It's sort of just a simple love story. And it doesn't really tie into the gameplay too much. But all of that is great. I mean, I think it kind of, even though it's like 3.5 hours long, overstays its welcome. It does get to feel a little bit repetitive at a point, and some of the puzzles are pretty fucking tough. So I got stuck multiple times. But I think that the motion sickness is what really matters at the end of the day. When I'm thinking back to this game, it made me sick, and that's really unfortunate. But I guess I do recommend the game because not everyone gets motion sick from this. And if you don't, you might find a lot more to enjoy with the game. But I certainly respect it, and I think it's clever. But I didn't have a good time with it.
No, I understand that. Ultimately, I thought the game was pretty, but it didn't do a whole lot to speak to me. I mean, I have it downloaded because it's a PS Plus bonus, and the conceit of it sounds interesting. But ultimately, there's a lot of puzzle games I want to play first. Like I want to play Superliminal. I want to play your Stanley Parable. Mm-hmm. I want to do things like that. So it's in the hopper, but kind of lukewarm reviews also didn't drive me to it at first. So
some people don't really like the story and the voice acting, which I guess is understandable because it's very simple, but I think it's told very well. And I mean, the characters, which you don't see, they're just voices, are really fleshed out. The relationship is actually pretty interesting. I guess maybe I'm just a sucker for romance stories, but I thought it was done really well. The voice acting is great. I like Bryce Dallas Howard. She's very attractive. But I don't know. It's an interesting game, but thinking of how not oversaturated, but decently saturated the first person puzzle game market is, go play Portal, go play Stanley Parable, go play Superliminal. I mean, there's a fucking load of them. There's also
Manifold Garden. I want to play.
Thank you. That's exactly what I'm thinking of. But I think all of those are probably better games. So yeah.
Tucker, I've got one last game.
Of course you do. You would.
How many do you have? You've got one more too, also.
Yeah, I'll scratch one and talk about it next week.
All right, perfect. The game I've been playing most recently, and the one that I'm pushing towards the conclusion on, is Donkey Kong Country Returns.
Oh,
on 3DS.
Okay.
Yes. Now,
when did you start this?
6 months ago.
Okay, that's where I was wondering.
Yeah, so I played it for a while. I put it down, certainly not because of the game's fault. The game is terrific. But busy with end of semester or whatever, put it down, and then got caught in the undertow. And then, and a particular reason that I cannot divulge on camera, unfortunately, I can tell you afterwards, got me.
I get to know you don't, guys. You fucked, audience.
Got me back in the mood to pick this up, finish it off, and have completed all the Donkey Kong Country games.
Get a special monkey mood, you know what I'm saying?
Yes. And this game really is genuinely wonderful. I think that they're just the organic nature of the level design is so amazing, and how inventive it is equally impressive. The fact that they can pull together so many bizarre ideas, like I just beat a boss, which is a bunch of moles on a train. They're on this mine train, and it's full of bananas.
Sure, natural.
And they're like throwing pickaxes at you, and you're trying to ride on your mine cart to get close enough to hop on to then kill the moles in like a whack-a-mole game. Sure. And keep doing that till all the moles disappear, and this big fucker pops out, starts throwing his own pickaxes at you. But it feels very natural in the context of the world because it's full of zany characters, and everything has a place. This mole minecart full of bananas is on a railway through the tree
Of
line.
course.
And all of this is illustrated by Retro through really rich detail. And this is nothing new for Donkey Kong Country.
Of course.
It's just
we reviewed that first game, and
yeah.
First game on the SNES, relatively early in the SNES library. Like, holy shit, that already looks great.
Yeah, and just everything that they pack into this game is wonderful. And I think it has a great challenge curve also. It is a difficult game, but it is certainly not oppressive. And there are some options to give yourself more health. There are plentiful banana coins, which you can spend on red balloons, which are basically the lives.
Yeah.
So you can rack those up very quickly. It's challenging, but fair and inviting in a way that I think is really great.
Mm-hmm.
So I am super excited to finish this up for next week, and I'll give more holistic impressions once I've done the last 2 or 3 worlds that I have.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, I own this game, entirely unsure how I came up. It came into my possession. It just sort of appeared in my DS case one day. It was probably a friend's. They left it, and I just a game and put that in my fucking case. But I mean, I've played 1, 2 Tropical Freeze. I've played all the classic Donkey Kong games. Donkey Kong is a franchise that I don't care too much about, but I've enjoyed all the games that I've played of it. So I mean, I'll give it a try eventually. I mean, it kind of fits into that certainly oversaturated niche of 2D platformer 3DS games that people always complain about. Though of course this is a remake of a Wii game, so it puts it in a weird scenario. Though what I've heard is that it's the best version of it because you don't have to fucking deal with shaking the remote. But
I'm not sure if I would agree with that if I had the Wii version.
Have you ever played the Wii version?
No, I haven't.
Okay.
And so that's why it's hypothetical for me.
Of course.
Because not having to shake the remote sounds like a benefit, but at the same time, the amount of visual detail here was not meant for a 240p 3DS screen. Yeah. And it just gets a little bit busy sometimes with how much is going on in a way that I don't think it would on a TV. Mm-hmm. So,
who the fuck knows? Yeah. Neither of us have played that other game, so can't say. But let's talk about a game that I did play and complete and very, very, very nearly platinum this past week, which is Concrete Genie, Pixel Opus's PS4 kind of enigma. When we talk about the PS4 and modern PlayStation and how they've sort of shifted away from those smaller titles, those more creative titles, experiential titles, the PS3 generation was chock full of them, and since then it's been a pretty steep decline. Concrete Genie is kind of one of the outliers there. I mean, this is a small game, maybe a small studio published. They're a PlayStation studio, but there's a small PlayStation studio.
Pixel Opus is very small, started as a bunch of student developers, and it's like 13 or 14 people, and they make really small games like this. They made Bound, and they made this, and so this is their niche.
Yeah, and I think it shows. I think multiple things show here. I think the creativity of a small team, given the push of the publisher, is really a really interesting balance that gives this game a sort of place among the other first party PlayStation games, but it certainly does feel like an indie game. For better and worse. This is a game that is really creative. It's got a super unique visual style. The concept is that you're a kid going around a sort of dilapidated city, which was your old hometown, and you've got your magic paintbrush that can paint on walls and create genies that walk along the walls that help you out, and they're sort of your little friends. And all the while you're fighting back the bullies that are chasing you around the city. And all of that, great. Again, great visual style. It really leans into the art aesthetic of painting on walls and creating these really fantastical designs that bring color and life back to the city, like a De Blob or something like that, but a lot more granular. And it's fantastic from all those regards. It's got a pretty simple story, but a heartfelt one about bullying and in the background, sort of capitalism destroying a town and everyone leaving and stuff like that. But this game is also pretty janky. Like the physics just don't feel right, and you're trying to make these jumps and it just doesn't work. And the game switches over about 3/4 of the way through to like a hack and slash brawler where man, those physics and mechanics just don't work. And you're trying to shoot your fire projectile at this guy who's flying and it doesn't hit. So you have to wait for it to finish its cycle. So it lands on the ground, you hit it a bunch, so it just takes forever. There's a few problems with this game though it doesn't take away from the quality and unique perspective that this game offers. I think it's a really cool game. It's really unique. It's very short, 4.5 hours, something like that. You can certainly beat it. It's got a very easy platinum as well. But I just wish that it had more polish, because I think this could be a top tier, well polished game. But when I've got the occasional visual tears and I've got some sloppy physics and weird combat, I'm just like, damn, it just takes something out of the experience.
No, I agree, and I think it's just that is just a symptom of the fact that Pixelopus is small and Pixelopus does not matter to Sony. I think the fact that a game like Concrete Genie slipped past the goalposts is impressive in the first place. I own it. I got it as part of, I did like one of the fucking pre-owned buy two get one free sales at GameStop. But I haven't played it. Yeah. And it's a game I'm interested in primarily from a narrative and conceptual perspective. Yeah. A friend of mine who I was his editor at CBR. He wrote a bunch of really interesting pieces about the game, sort of more thematically. Sure. And that got me interested to check it out at least. And so I might, especially its short length, tempts me also.
It's a 1 to 2 day game. Like I do think it fills a nice niche of if you need something to just quickly pass the time while you're waiting for something bigger, or you just got off something bigger and you just want to get through something and have a little box check like I do. I'm a big fan of that. I knocked off Concrete Genie and Maquette in 2 days. Nice. Oh Christ. But it fits that niche, and I certainly recommend the game. Though I don't think it's a 10 out of 10. I don't think it's a 9 out of 10. I think there are enough issues with it from a gameplay perspective that I just sort of feel like that, it's lessened.
Yeah. Tucker, are you ready for the community section?
I was born ready.
Tucker, we have a lot of submissions today.
We really do. And this is going to be a long segment, but intentionally so. We planned this.
And I am more than happy to have the episode go long in service of getting to talk to our friends more. And so as you will see,
I'm okay. I like talking to my friends, but
as you will see, fair listener, because a surprising number of people watch BLB actually. Yeah. So if
I don't know who you are, but
if you want to know us, because we'd like to know you, join the Discord and share your thoughts. We'd be more than happy to read them out. Yes. But how about we just bounce back and forth? How does that sound?
Sure. Okay. Starting at the top here.
We'll go back and forth. Yeah, we'll switch off per person. I think that's probably best for clarity. Okay. So our friend Tim has the first one here, who says, I've been playing Tetris Effect Connected on the beautiful OLED Switch screen. It's one of the most overwhelming experiences I've ever had in video gaming.
But let's clarify, because he's also said a few times his experiences with this game elsewhere, overwhelming in a good way. Overwhelming
in a very good way.
In an experiential way that we sort of talked about a couple times when we talked about Tetris Effect Connected. It's just the fact that this game is throwing a lot at you, and it's got its music and its sound and its visuals all synced together in a momentary experiential experience. But I'm glad that it's working. Yeah. But you have also been playing this.
Yes.
Not on the OLED Switch because you're a little bitch and didn't buy the Switch, but
yeah. I had a pre-order. It was a European pre-order, but by the time that currency was converted, by the time that like the imports and everything were put on it, it was just too expensive. It was not worth it.
Oh, gotcha. Sure.
So I canceled that. I've got one eye open for an American pre-order. I'll see if I can find one. But this game I have been playing. I got a review copy provided to me from Enhanced Games to do a review for Ninty Fresh. My review is in Ninty Fresh issue 5. It is the most positive review I've ever published in my entire career.
Holy Christ.
I genuinely believe that Tetris Effect Connected is one of the very best games, period.
Ever.
I think that what it accomplishes in terms of creating this like evocative, empathetic, emotional experience through visual art, through sound design, through music, through interactive gameplay, is something that nothing else in the medium accomplishes. And it is just a really touching experience that makes me feel vulnerable and emotional every time I play it on a fucking random day of the week. Because I just think this game is beautiful in a way that games usually aren't. Games are beautiful. There are a lot of beautiful games, but this is an emotionally beautiful game. And that's not something I say very often. And I think that the Switch version is the best version of the game, because I think that the handheld experience, with headphones in, with the game has very good HD rumble also. So when you're playing in handheld mode in bed or somewhere snuggled up with the game, that's just, it adds another level of like intimacy to the experience.
Sure.
Because the handheld play is more intimate, the closeness to the screen.
Yeah,
it's your personal screen, everything, right? So what the game is trying to evoke and elicit from the player is heightened by the fact that you get to play it right here. On my dumb fuck launch day Switch that has chocolate milk spilled into it and the screen is scratched and it's a disaster, the battery drains real fast. So I don't know if that's a me issue or a game issue.
Yeah.
But you're gonna make it through journey mode like twice and your battery's gonna die. But what
Sure, which is still
like 2 hours, 2.5 hours
total or per?
Yeah, total.
Okay, well maybe you can just beat journey mode real fast because I probably took me like 3.5 hours to beat journey mode the first time.
Oh, I think for me it takes like 40 minutes to an hour to beat journey mode. But I digress. No matter where you're coming into this game from, it is a stunning experience. It's stunning. This game is stunning, and it's probably my top 10 games of all time, having now beat it 5 times.
Not that that necessarily means anything, because fucking you stub your toe and your list flips upside down.
I would say everything from like 15 to 100 changes. Sure. But I feel like if I'm willing to put a game in that very top echelon, it means a lot. In respect, it's beautiful, stunning, immaculate.
Let's go to a couple other games from our good friend Mooglenator in the Discord, who starts off with Persona 5 Royal. You were saying, I thought you were trying to say something, but no, you're doing Persona music.
Yes.
He says that it's a slow burn of an RPG. It's lengthy, but juggling school life, maintaining friendships, a part-time job, and fighting against monsters makes for a good time. Yeah. You played Royal. You didn't get very far.
Played 15 hours.
I put 90 hours into Persona 5, and I don't think it's that good. I think it's a fine game, but I think it's really underwhelming. Compared to the fucking behemoth that people put it out to be. It's just too long. It gets boring in sections. I don't think the combat's that good. But I don't want to take away from what he said of the game being a lot of fun. And obviously most people really do love it. So
the length of the game for me is the main issue, because I actually really loved those 15 hours. I really did. I think the game was amazing conceptually. I love its version of Shibuya. I love the characters, the music, the menu design, the combat. I find really satisfying, figuring out the weaknesses and trying to bring the monsters to your team and like having to figure out the personality works. I think the game is really special. I just think that the game would be really special if it was the length of Final Fantasy VII Remake.
Which is 20 hours, 25?
20, 25, sure. 30.
Okay. Yeah, but it's not. He also says that he's been playing Eastward, which is an interesting one. A gorgeous looking title that pays homage to classic games like Earthbound and Dragon Quest, but plays like a 2D Zelda game. I've always been interested in this game because published by Chucklefish, I believe. Yes. Looks great. Visually, I think it's got some cool character design and stuff like that. But when I'm looking at the reviews for Eastward, I'm like, this is an interesting game. HLTB Eastward. 45 hours? What the fuck? I'm not going to play that goddamn game for 45 hours.
It's 45 hours?
It's not, well, I think they may be exaggerating, but it's somewhere around that, which is ridiculous.
Jesus Christ.
I mean, it seems like a 10-hour game max, but
yeah, that's kind of the assumption I got. I think the game is beautiful. I don't have, ultimately, it's one of those games where I'm like, wow, that's pretty.
Let me hold on, let me double check.
And it passes me by.
I guess I'm stupid. It's 30 hours, people are saying.
I mean, that's still excessive. That's still excessive.
Yeah. Okay, I exaggerated though, but that's what my experience was like looking it up. I'm like, whoa, holy shit, this is so long.
30 hours is still a long time to devote to a game. Yeah. For just the context of its narrative, I think that's pretty long. But I don't know. I when you say Earthbound, Dragon Quest, Zelda, it's like there's a lot of games that are inspired by Earthbound, Dragon Quest.
Yeah, that has kind of just become video games, adventure games. If it's a 2D adventure game, I mean, that's what you're drawing inspiration from automatically. Just go play Undertale. Just like seriously, just go play Undertale.
Yeah. But all right, it's on my radar. On a sale, perhaps.
Next up, Fallout New Vegas on Game Pass. He says it doesn't hold up very well a decade later. It's actually more bland than I remembered at launch, but the music and combat are good enough to keep me going down this nostalgic path.
Interesting. I was under the impression that people really love New Vegas on the whole.
Of course.
That's an Obsidian game, not Bethesda Softworks proper, who of course went on to make the Outer Worlds, which I love.
Sound like a fucking nerd. Oh, glasses are on.
But
ring light reflection ready.
I would like to try Fallout 3 in particular, because Fallout 4 didn't really do a whole ton for me, but 3 is really the seminal one. That's when it's more plotting, but perhaps in a way that might be more interesting, because 4 is more streamlined, action focused, and probably not as memorable. So I'd be interested to try these games, especially since they're all on Game Pass, but I cannot really share a whole lot about. I can't devote the time. I also can't share a lot about my thoughts here. Yeah. This is one that should be on Switch. If it was on Switch, I'd give it a go for sure.
Both those 2 games, and honestly also 4. The entire Fallout franchise should be available on Switch. I mean, 1 and 2 are 2D PC games. They'd be fine on Switch. All of this should be on Switch. But yeah, no, I don't know why you lean towards 3 as opposed to New Vegas, because I've heard that 3 is really clunky from a modern perspective, and New Vegas is the one that people really lean towards. But I've played 4 and enjoyed what I played of it, mostly from an aesthetic and world building perspective. But apparently Fallout fans don't like that game, which is interesting, because I thought that people really liked that game. And then I'm like looking more into it. People hate Fallout 4, but people hate every game. So
Far Harbor, the DLC takes place up in my neck of the woods, which is interesting because not a lot of games take place there. I believe also, does Alan Wake take place in Maine?
How the fuck would I know?
You haven't played Alan? I would have thought you would have played Alan Wake because of how much you like Control. I don't know if you ever picked it up.
No.
I actually had an inkling that I might pick up Alan Wake Remastered, but I didn't. So that's.
Oh, did it come out?
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
And it's only $30.
I thought that was like a next year deal.
Huh. No.
All right.
You hop to the next cloud version on Switch. So we're gonna get.
Oh, Fallout 2. All
right. Next we have our good friend Will. This is Will. Yes, this is Will next. I couldn't remember who exactly Tomato was. I apologize, Will. I apologize. I could never forget
your fucking creepy ass dumb Tomato profile picture just scares the living bejesus out of me.
I always forget if Dead Shard is Isaac or if that's Will. And this is
Isaac is Isaac.
Yes, good point. But usually Will is talking to us about Binding of Isaac, but this week he's not.
Great. Great point.
Yes, Will says, been playing GTA 4. It's really good. I'm going into it from GTA 5, and it's very different in a good way. Nico and Roman play off each other so well, and Nico struggled to make a living and deal with all these external threats. Is really interesting. I've heard that the story of this game is very good.
GTA 4 is a fascinating one to me, and I'm taking the opportunity to talk about it here, even though this episode's going to be fucking long, so whatever. Because I really only heard about GTA when 5 came out. I mean, I knew Grand Theft Auto existed and it was fucking edgy, and my mom didn't want me to play it, but 5 was the one that came out when we were really cognizant of the games industry. And I don't know your experience with 4, and I'll let you get into that a little bit, but from the outsider's perspective, and having 5 be the main core one of my time, I didn't think anyone gave a piss about 4. I always heard San Andreas. I always heard 3 was the turntable. What's the other one? San Andreas,
Vice City,
New Vegas. It's Vice. You're right, Vice City. But the PS2 ones people always talked about. I put those on the classic lists. But 4, there was just kind of a jump. I'm like, I guess there was a 4 in the middle there, but who the fuck talks about 4? But apparently people like it a lot. I mean, it's one that Tanner played a ton of. But Jesus Christ, no one fucking talks about that game anymore.
Well, I think 4 is just a symptom of the fact that it didn't have a generation to itself. It had 5. And
sure.
The success of, from what I understand, the success of 3, Vice City, New Vegas, not New Vegas, San Andreas, it's like about commensurate. But the disparity between 4 and one of the best-selling games of all time is so fucking enormous, right? So I think 4 just kind of gets forgotten about a little bit in that sense. But what interests me about 4, actually more opposed to 5, because I've never played any GTA, and frankly, I don't really have a lot of interest in the series.
Sure.
But what interests me more about 4 is that it's more narrative-driven. People love that story, and they love the DLCs, Lost in the Damned and Ballad of Gay Tony. So honestly, I think if I were to really like a GTA game, it probably would be 4, based on the way people talk about it. But clearly, Rockstar doesn't plan on re-releasing it. It's all about that GTA trilogy. which I know you're gonna get, so I'll give it a shot. But ultimately, the GTA series just doesn't really compel me, to be honest.
I think that collection's $60.
Yeah.
Which I don't know if I want to drop $60 on this fucking
Well,
game.
we haven't seen them. We don't know if it's worth that or not.
What a weird rollout for that fucking collection. It's been rumored longer than the day is fucking long.
Yeah.
And then they're like, hey, we're officially announcing it.
Yeah.
Officially announcing it. Fucking stupid. All right, if we're switching off by person, it's me next. Yes. Christ. All right.
Do you want to go paragraph for paragraph for Nisk?
Yeah, Nisk moment. You know what I'm fucking saying.
Guys. She gave us some really thorough thoughts here, and I think for most people, let them
I'm just being a little bitch, as I'm wont to do. But first off, have you heard of Record of Lodos War?
No, it keeps going. Then there's a dash and the subtitle.
Oh, Record of Lodos War, Deedlit Wonder Labyrinth. That's probably the worst name I've ever heard for a video game. Like, I exaggerate often, but that's the most clunky, unappealing name I've ever heard.
That gets into the fucking Hyper Neptunia Saturnia horse shit. Yeah. There's a lot of like weirdly named anime games that I don't care about, but we're continuing.
But Record of Lodos War, Deedlit Wonder Labyrinth is I can't lay it that fast. Is a really fun short Metroidvania. The setting and music fall a bit short, but the game's elemental switching mechanic is a fun way to shake up the fairly rigid Igavania formula. Team Ladybug, which I've never heard of, also improves on Iga's style of gameplay. While Deedlit's movement is still somewhat stiff, you're able to hit enemies diagonally and replay the sub-weapons. I don't know what that means. Replay the sub-weapons with various high mana cost magics, this is a wrong sentence, and low mana cost bow, which is another nice change of pace. Deedlit and Wonder Labyrinth definitely groundbreaking by any means, but it's 5 hours feels great to play. I fucked that up, but
I'm just gonna let that speak for itself. I've got no fucking idea what this game is.
I've never heard of that before. No.
Yeah.
I'll do a little research afterward because I like hearing about things I've never heard of before, but we're not talking about it. Sorry. You got two other ones we can actually talk about.
Yeah. She also writes Super Mario 3D World, and this refers to the Switch port. I don't really have much to say about this game. It's just kind of boring. The movement is fairly satisfying, and the music is just filled with bangers, but that's it really. Similar to Odyssey, there's a lot of great stuff in and surrounding the game, but actually playing it is rather boring. I won't be too mean, as this is clearly meant to be more of a kid's game than the other 3D Mario games, but I just couldn't give a shit about this though. 2.5 out of 5.
She gave Record of Lodos War, Deedlit and Wonder Labyrinth 4.5 out of 5, by the way. Just fucking FYI if you're wondering.
Now, Tucker, this could be an hour and a half discussion by itself.
Yes, it could.
Her thoughts in this game. I think what's probably best is to direct the audience towards our reviews of Odyssey, or our retrospective for Odyssey and our review of 3D World.
Yes.
But ultimately, I'm just kind of diametrically opposed to this perspective.
Same here. As and this great friend, known you for a while, that's how I feel about a lot of your opinions. And I know that's how you feel about mine. So, you know, it's fucking end of the day, PEMDAS cancels out. But what the fuck?
I generally like a lot of Nisk's opinions, even though a lot of them are opposed to mine, because she has a lot of really interesting perspectives. But the mistake I think she makes here is the conflation of 3D World.
You made a mistake.
When you compare 3D World and Odyssey, I think you make a fundamental misunderstanding about how those games are incredibly different. Mm-hmm. I think the function of 3D World is not necessarily to be a children's game. It's to be the 3D realization of what the 2D Mario formula is.
Sure.
And to that effect,
yes, I agree. I don't want to say
think, sure. Yeah, I think that your point about the game feeling excellent is what matters, because it's about the acrobatic act of platforming through these linear stages.
Yeah.
And to that effect, I think the game succeeds very well. So much variety in terms of level themes, in terms of gameplay concepts, music. Yeah. I genuinely think that it is a really great game. But
one thing I would say, and you're never going to hear me say this again, but in defense of Nisk, is that I believe what she's saying about the comparison of the two is that she also feels that Odyssey is very boring. And it's really just the movement that is interesting in that game, which we're also diametrically opposed to. But but man, Nah, some bad takes.
I just think that similar to Odyssey, a lot of great stuff in and surrounding the game, actually playing it is boring. The reason I just take issue with that is I think those games are incomparable in this sense because they're going after such different objectives.
Sure.
But kind of agree with Nisk about the structure of Odyssey as much as I love that game, as much as I loved it. You want to take her final?
Yes, I do. Legend of Skyward Sword.
Run it back.
Like do a Tracer move there, you know what I'm saying? The Legend of Zelda Skyward Sword HD. Like 3D World, I really wanted to like this, and I adore most of the Zelda games I've played, but this just isn't really for me. I'm sure that the motion controls were fun on the Wii with the Wii Motion Plus add-on, but man, they port so terribly to the Switch. We've had a conversation about that. Having to constantly recalibrate the Joy-Con is a minor annoyance for sure. That should clarify a little bit. But considering motion controls are supposed to make you more immersed, it feels like a total failure here, and the traditional controls are fine here. But the entire gameplay experience is centered on the motion controls. So while this layout is less frustrating, it makes the game feel lacking. I'm also just personally not into the way 3D Zelda handles dungeons, or nor do I care how Skyward Sword presents its story. I think I'll just read the wiki before Breath of the Wild 2. She didn't finish it, so no score.
Yeah.
We've had our conversation about Skyward Sword. Neither of us finished that game. Neither of us, I mean, I don't know if either of us will go back to it. I left the game more positive. I put it down just because I moved away to something else and for no fault of the game on its own, though I do think it is too long. But I had a great time with the motion controls. We've had a conversation about this in the Discord, but I really think that recalibration with the Y button is the best solution they could come up with. And because it's so simple, it really doesn't hamper the experience at all for me. I mean, it's just like, oh, I'm taking out my sword. Essentially press Y to take out the sword, and then it's perfectly calibrated and there's not a fucking issue. But that's obviously, that's just my experience. You and Nisk feel very differently, and you can rebut or respond however you want.
I agree with Nisk basically categorically on this game. I think that the motion controls do not feel good, and it extends beyond the calibration to the variously clumsy swimming controls or balancing controls or loft wing controls. I know you like those more, and there's a satisfaction there, but it's, I think, buried. I believe, as Nisk is saying super accurately, that the role of the motion controls is to immerse you. But these controls feel more mediated by limitation. Sure. And it's a larger hardware issue with the Switch. It's the best they could do in the context of Skyward Sword HD. Yeah. But sometimes the best you can do suggests that this wasn't the right platform for the project. Okay. In my perspective. Because the motion controls are integral to that game. Stripping them away, I think, makes it a much stronger game. For me personally, but it's just like with Pikmin 3 Deluxe, when the gyro is fucking drifting to the moon or I have to constantly recalibrate, I don't feel like Link. And the intention of those motion controls...
Hard to feel like Link in Pikmin 3.
Great point. But the success of the motion controls on Wii, because I played the game on Wii some, was that it felt very one-to-one. Here it's one-to-one if you jump through the hoops. And the hoops are not grand, but I'm trying to become immersed in the experience. And I just don't think that the motion controls, for me and for Nisk, allowed for that. And again, I also just think the game is too puzzle heavy for my taste. So yeah. My turn.
God, it isn't it?
Time for Franz's comment here, our good friend Pantry. Gaming in the Pantry.
Yo, represent.
I did some gaming, played Skatebird. It's charming, witty, easy to learn, and just a good vibes game. I don't have the highest standards for skate games, but this is cute and accessible. Issue is I get stuck on collision a lot and camera is wacky, so that's not the greatest. Some of the maps also feel samey, so I give Skatebird my IGN score of 6.7 out of 10. Fun for a while. This game is downloaded to my Xbox.
This game would be downloaded to my Xbox if I had an Xbox.
Yes. I think this game seemed really charming and fun, but it did not review very well. It seemed like it just did not come out very polished. So that's unfortunate. The skate game I'm waiting for is Ollie World, which I got to play and preview. The game is fucking fantastic, and I cannot wait for that to release. But I do want to try Skateboard, if only for the novelty of being a bird who skates.
Which is the draw of the game.
While not being a full game, I'll briefly touch on being able to play the next chapter of Deltarune, which was a sick surprise and a very fun continuation with tons of creativity and bangers. I'm assuming he refers to the soundtrack. Very happy for the full game and doing more playthroughs. Not a whole lot to add. I haven't played Deltarune.
Yeah, I have Deltarune Chapter 1 and 2 downloaded on my Switch. My biggest problem comes from, as with anything that's released this way, I really hate episodic delivery of anything. I would rather Toby Fox dropped Deltarune the game in 8 years, and we just had got to wait, much like fucking Last Guardian or Cyberpunk or whatever, a long time for the game to come out. But it being incomplete and there being which is fine, but no set release calendar for the episodes is a huge turnoff for me. I mean, those games, chapters 1 and 2 might be great, but if the story is not going to be complete, I really find myself turned away by that.
I agree with you on the whole, but I disagree in the case of Deltarune because Deltarune's chapters right now are being released for free, and they're being released as Toby Fox on his own finishes them.
Yeah.
For me, that seems more reasonable than when Square Enix and IO Interactive say that Hitman is going to be episodic. You're going to pay for the game up front, then you're going to get an episode doled out and doled out and doled out. But we are we are not IDOS. We are IO and we are Square Enix. We have the game, it's done, but that's arbitration to me.
Yes, sure.
That's arbitration. Telltale's arbitration. Deltarune is a really creative. Life is Strange. Deltarune is a really creative guy who is
Toby Fox.
Yes. Toby is putting out the content as he has it, and his fan base seems to really respond to that. And I just draw a distinction between that and the ways that a lot of the larger teams use episodic delivery.
I guess I should have clarified because I 100% do agree, and it works for him. It's clearly working for the audience as well. But I mean, what was it? 2 years between episodes 1 and 2, something near that, if not longer. Again, this is just very personal, but I like having succinct experiences, and I really don't want to wait. And I don't want to wait for the next episode having played the other ones, so I haven't, so I won't, so I'll wait.
Okay. And Franz says, as for AAA games, I've been playing Mario Super Picross featuring Wario. Well, don't need to say anything more other than this piece of software's existence is pleasing to my subconscious, and that we need a new game in this staple of a series. Truly Miyamoto's magnum opus. Picross itself took me a while to get into in the first game, but man, does this one streamline everything so well and added in some great features. I will not forgive IMDb users for giving the first one a 6.1 out of 10. Fun fact, the director is, how do you say his name?
Nakazu Ishihara.
Yes, president of the Pokemon Company. Also beat Super Metroid and Dishonored very recently, but I've put out enough text for now.
He did a lot of text, but also interesting games to talk about. Yeah. Oh yeah, baby. Mario Super Picross. Fuck yeah. I talked about that game a little bit when I was playing it last year, playing a lot of it last year in a very short period of time. Go, if you have SNES Online, go play the fucking game.
Okay.
Abram Buhner, I will probably burn you at the stake publicly because you didn't try the Sega Genesis Picross game, as you said 3 different occasions, I think. Oh, I don't know. I'll be on that next week.
It's downloaded though.
I know. I watched you download it on camera, and he was like, "Oh, next week." Yeah, I honestly don't fucking believe you. Which is, I don't really care if you play it, but also you said so, and you fucking didn't. But Mario Super Picross is great. Half the things he said in there don't make sense, like logistically. I don't know what the fuck he's talking about. But the fact that he is playing a Picross game pleases my subconscious. The fact that he's playing that game, which I love, pleases me sexually. And just my existence is superior because he mentioned that.
I believe what Franz is referring to is Mario's Picross and Game Boy.
And when he says IMDb, he means IGN.
No, I think he probably actually means IMDb. I think he means IG, what's it called? The International
IDGB.
Games Database. Yes.
Oh, he might have just fucked up.
Probably. But
IGTV.
Yes. Tucker, we got one more comment. It came in very recently and came in under the wire as we were recording. This is from Abby.
Is my turn?
Yes, it's your turn.
Oh, look at that. Look at me go. I played through Metroid Dread, which I really enjoyed. It was a very refreshing experience compared to the other FPSs that I've been playing as of late. Hold on. He starts a new game in the next sentence.
Yes. We also love Metroid Dread, and we have a full review.
Go watch that, you little bitch.
You can't talk to our intern that way. That's an HR violation.
No, not him. He already watched the review. He's fine. He says, I started playing Age of Calamity DLC. It is very fun and basically more Age of Calamity. The new characters are awesome and it makes me more excited for the second wave. Yeah, we don't have anything to say about that.
I actually, Tucker, I almost booted up Age of Calamity today because I'm almost done with the game. I could just finish it, but I just didn't like it that much.
Yeah.
It just feels really sloppy compared to Hyrule Warriors, the original.
Sure. He also says that he finally started his fourth playthrough of 3D World and actually hoped to finish it. I was very similar to me. It took me a lot of playthroughs to beat that very short and easy game. I really love the game. It honestly might be one of my top 5 games of all time, but I want to experience a full game before I give it that title. I love the bite-sized levels and how easy it is to play with friends. I also plan to play Bowser's Fury after I finish it. We got a little bit of a diametric opposition.
Yes, we do. We should maybe this can be we can have
hold on. At Nisk. At Nisk. At Abi. At Nisk. Fight.
Debate. We will read out the whatever happens in this debate, we'll read it out next episode. Sure. And if nothing happens, it'll be a real short segment. But Tucker, the only thing I want to say there is I also want to replay Bowser's Fury.
Yeah, I've been thinking about that too.
Because I was very critical. There's a little bit of revisionist history going on because you were also very critical of Bowser's Fury, but then you're giving me shit for liking Super Rush more than Bowser's Fury. So I think.
No, but holy shit, I like Bowser's Fury so much more than Super Rush. Holy fuck.
Sure.
Like multiple magnitudes more.
But I would like to give it another shot. It's very short. Nisk, based as usual, was also not a fan of Bowser's Fury. Mm-hmm. So I might even ask if she wants to write in. I think it might even be fun to do a little bit of in the context of BLB, a kind of re-review of Bowser's Fury might be fun to do.
Sure.
But Tucker, I think that's about the end of the episode.
We're done.
I want to go get dinner before Quest.
Finally. Yeah, Quest is in 30 minutes. You better fucking hurry. So on that note, we'll get out of here and you guys will come back next week. Those of you who are watching will join the Discord, leave your comments on what games you've been playing, and who cares how fucking long BLB goes? We're just going to talk about goddamn video games.
And it was a ton of fun. Thank you to Tim. Thank you to Andrew. Thank you to Will. Thank you to Nisk. Thank you to Franz. Thank you to Abi. Thank you to all of you guys for writing in. That was really fantastic. All of you guys did a great job. And I'm very excited for you to keep writing in, and more people write in next time too. So
bye-bye.